Electrical issues can be some of the most frustrating problems to diagnose in the shop, and parasitic draw is near the top of that list. It can drain a battery overnight, waste diagnostic time, and lead to unnecessary part replacements. In today's Toolbox Topic episode, we're joined by Dave Barden from PowerProbe to talk about how technicians can simplify parasitic draw testing, the tools that make it faster and more accurate, and the best practices for getting to the root cause of the problem. Dave, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's go ahead and dive right in. Parasitic battery draw can be a costly and hidden issue in a busy shop environment. Can you walk us through why this problem remains so challenging for technicians and what common symptoms they might overlook?
Yeah, unfortunately, over the years, it has not gotten easier, and especially with the increased complexity in cars. And more, we're seeing like intermittent issues that only happen overnight or over certain amounts of time and stuff like that. So there's, at least in my professional experience of working on parasitic drain cars, it's almost no two alike unless you're in a common brand shop. Um, And sometimes it takes different tactics to get to the root of the problem and different tools. But there are a variety of techniques to get the best results as fast as possible. One of the latest complications is, let's see if I have them in my pocket, keys. Just simply having the keys near the car can activate modules, which could be a false parasitic drain, but making sure that they're away from the car or having them stashed in something like a Faraday box, so it blocks the key signal.
Wow, I
So
definitely,
yeah,
I
not
would have
getting
overlooked
easier,
that myself.
not getting easier, but we're trying to come up with new tools and stay ahead of the techniques of finding those quickly and efficiently.
For sure. Now, once a tech suspects a draw, how should they approach diagnostics in a structured way, from measurement to isolation to repair, to ensure that quality result?
Um, yeah, I've always talked about there's two halves to the battle. One, determining if you have a draw that's causing the battery drain. The second and more difficult step is always locating the circuit or module or whatever is causing the drain. And it could be something as simple as a light switch latch on a trunk not closing completely and a light staying on. That's typical old school stuff. New school stuff, it's typically gets more complicated. A module such as a automatic temperature control module or a heated seat module that intermittently wakes up. I've run across some really odd ones over the years.
So, speaking of your experience, what features in modern diagnostic tools help streamline parasitic draw testing, especially when shops have limited time or multiple vehicles waiting?
Right. And I'll explain later, but like one of our new tools makes the actual determination if you have a draw really quick and easy. And sometimes, particularly on the car you were on and where the battery was located, you typically had to wire an amp meter between the battery and the battery cable. And try to do that without losing power at the same time could be difficult. That's one of our new tools that makes it kind of a plug and play really quickly. You can determine if you have a draw, and then you can move on to the stage two of locating the circuit that has the draw, getting to that next step faster.
Now, speaking of those specific tools, how do specific tools like PowerProbe PP Draw or PowerProbe PP Fuse and PowerProbe DM300 Auto support technicians in detecting, measuring, and verifying parasitic draws more effectively?
um, for example, the PP draw, I found myself using a memory saver quite often, especially on newer cars, is very important so you don't lose computer adaptations such as fuel trims, transmission adjustments over time. So I had to have a battery supplying power to the vehicle while the vehicle's battery was disconnected. And we realized if we could put just an amp meter on that, then if all the power is coming out of this tool, that same amp reading would be just the same as if I was supplying power from the vehicle's battery. So real quickly, I can just plug this into an OBD2 port, disconnect one battery cable to the other. Instantly, there's my battery draw reading. And it's a memory saver. I never lost power the whole time. So literally in minutes, you can determine if there is a drain that's too high for the vehicle you're working on, even under routine maintenance, just exchanging a battery.
Very cool. Now, looking ahead, as vehicles get more complex with more electronics, modules, sleep current, how will diagnosis of parasitic draws evolve, and what should independent shops be doing now to stay ahead?
Well, one thing back in the old day when we had draws, it was just simply a matter of pulling fuses one by one and seeing which circuit, would cause a drop off, and that was my problem circuit. Now you can't even do that because that could wake up or reset the module that's causing the problem, and your problem comes back later. Years ago, we introduced a technique to voltage drop with the multimeter across fuses, and we created these charts where you could convert those millivolt readings to actual current readings, how much current was going across that fuse. In some of our newer tools, our DM300 Auto, it has that feature where I can read current across a fuse. And our newest tool, the PP Fuse, is built specifically just for that reason. And it actually makes it more efficient because on this end, it just tells you which fuses are active first. So I can quickly identify fuses that have current on them and tell how much current is going through that fuse. So it makes finding that problem circuit much quicker and easier. There are other techniques too. I always say I can never have enough tools in my toolbox to attack a problem. I think thermal imaging is something that's really coming around soon. I've seen quite a few active modules discovered just by the heat signature they put out while being active. So there are some tools that really help to keep you on target when you're tracking down a parasitic drain. And that's kind of the key, is staying on target, eliminating one thing after another.
Awesome. I guess we'll just have to see what comes next. That wraps up today's Toolbox Topics episode. Parasitic draw testing doesn't have to be complicated. With the right process and the right tools, technicians can pinpoint problems quickly and keep customers' vehicles running reliably. Thanks again to Dave Barden from PowerPro for sharing your insights today, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you.